Hey, what's up, guys? This is gonna be the last non-gorilla hit and run vid I do of Morgue, which will from now on be live from the Barnes and Noble. Like in the last vid I did of Fangoria, BTD had really pointed it out. Something I was trying to sort of getting at. The whole process of this decadence, this declining civilization we have, putrefaction, rotting. There is a natural and good process in that, believe it or not. There's a symmetry to it. Things eventually rot away or go to such levels that you have reactions, you have things that will stimulate some kind of rebirth at some point. It, at this point, if they're able to keep this thing going, literally like a living dead, like a zombie civilization, who the hell knows what the future is going to be, okay? And I'll keep that theme here, the gender theme that I notice and I keep saying gender is a huge part of it. If you had the gender balance, in my humble opinion, settled, okay, you would solve a lot of the other problems, or you would not. You would manage a lot of the other problems far better that people focus on. But you're not having that. Everything I see where I'm staying at right now, there's a streaming services the people who are staying with watch. I'm looking at the horror films, and it's abysmal, the new stuff, both the no budget stuff and the big budget stuff. It's literally mostly, it's becoming female dominated. Okay, oh, it was male dominated before, so now this is a balance. Well, you told us domination was wrong, but forget all that tit for tat stuff. What you're seeing, however, is that you have plenty of men in this who are going along with this and feminized as well, who can't run to the front quick enough to put forth their the accolades of all these things. Meanwhile, you see this stuff. It's hardly disturbing. Now, I had told you that horror, like everything else, well, horror in particular, the low budget films, which is $5 million indie films, is totally in the upper class white bourgeois war against their lesser whites and whatnot. Is the driving theme here, but the gender, the feminization of everything is really here. Right? They are, they are bad mouthing. They're bad mouthing people for their gender and their race in a normalized way that they didn't even do back where supposedly all this stuff was being done. Okay, it's really an interesting dichotomy. Okay, trying to convince any of these people of that, it would be just the biggest waste of time. So, anyway, I'm just gonna focus on a few things here. So Andrea talks about Easter. Okay, but not realizing that she was blessed with an extended Italian family in Montreal. She turned against the Catholic things. She wonders what the Easter bunny and the eggs and the kind of savage passion plays have to do with the Christianity. I'm sure she knows it's pagan. It's Roman remnant. Anyway, she brings up the nuclear family, okay, which is a good name because the nuclear family is the phase before atomization. Okay, because you're supposed to have an extended family. You're supposed to have the men helped by their cousins and their brothers and nephews and their nieces and the aunts, and everyone contributes to help you out. Nuclear family puts you in the suburbs where you're now a slave to the system. Anyway, hey, real quick, I'll just go with this. The Serpent and the Rainbow. The movie and the book it was based on are seen through the wrong lens, primarily because the men who wrote them were white and made the movie white. We want something really of the culture that truly raise our understanding. Well, the understanding I had was that when they were filming The Serpent and the Rainbow, they had to film the rest of it in America because the bribes were getting too much. You had kids running in front of the camera asking for money. So other than those really beautifully dark, atmospheric Haitian cemetery scenes, which is something that you don't see every day, it had to be done in the evil America. And the finished film, I'm just going to focus on the screenwriter for this is a man, okay, who has a problem with toxic masculinity. And look at this. Social code is so different. Boys are encouraged to be violent and girls have to be perfect. Now, I'm looking around you. Well, I see some boys being violent. I see other ones uh, being pussies, so, or being fake gangsters. And I see women, they don't seem to want to be impressing anybody in any level, to be frank. But anyway, and you have this Helsinki horror punk, because this guy is so edgy and caustic that he's actually in winning in film festivals, award-winning films. That's how edgy he is. Talking about mansplaining. He actually used the word, unironically. So the mansplaining Helsinki mansplaining massacre, which I assume is the woman here massacring all these men with the unsolicited, uninformed tirades. Oof, man. Mansplaining is about the male ego, which is very fragile. Some male egos are fragile, some aren't. What, women don't have ego? Anyway, the tip for Ty gets you nowhere. And he gives a little hint here. It's armor you wear. Well, why do you wear armor? Because you're forged in this world of struggle. Also, he made another film about Night of the Living Dicks. A homage to Romero somehow. Satirical barbs, another form of toxic male behavior. Dick pics. So the film's about Anthony Weiner, right? Is that? Of course not. Horror comedy. I despise horror comedy. There's like maybe 3 or 4 good horror comedies in the last century. So enough of that. But he's so punk and edgy. They're so friggin' rebellious. These people that they get put in magazines, mainstream magazines, and get put in awards and whatever. See, Haxon, just real quick. This is probably one of the best silent horror film in terms of. It's a docudrama. It's very interesting. The director gets in there. He plays the devil. You have that scene of the woman giving birth to a demon. Oof, man. And of course, they talk about the progressive nature of the film, because the nature of the film is that much of the witchcraft was ignorant superstition of the Dark Ages. However, there is also an idea of female hysteria as being part of that, which is not mentioned here. So, but just great imagery, great film. See it. And we have here, I saw poetry and horror. I said, oh, that's cool, horror poetry. I like a lot of poems that are very dark, particularly the poems of Robinson Jefferson, even T.S. Eliot's The Wasteland, which is also a century old this year. Very, almost more horror-like. Yeah, and of course the Poe and everything. So, but apparently this is only women's poetry. Okay, so it's for all of us. But they didn't cover, anyway. Real quick, this guy, I remember this dude. This dude was a Renaissance man. Musician, circus clown, magician, writer, brothel pianist, DJ, and pro wrestler. Yeah, he was a big dude. It was interesting. I didn't know he made this very interesting music. Very atmospheric kind of music here. So, they do cover some good things in Rue Morgue, like I keep mentioning. So, but even the evil, dying race of people. And these are the new films. These are the things that are streaming that I was like, fast forwarding through or just turning off completely. The toxic masculinity of his leads. Okay, so this is normalized language. Of course, they'll tell you, well, it's toxic masculinity. We have the good masculinity, which is to have a shitty little beard and be quiet and be the passive one, right? And to know when to shut your mouth, which is to say all the time, unless you're going after your feral cousins. In this movie, the werewolf film, they saw the need to say white interlopers getting their just desserts. Why couldn't you just say interlopers? Anyway, why? And of course, what I'm saying, if you notice, especially the Rue Morgues, but even if you go on their website, everything is female oriented. Now, I'm the one that tells you the reason why you have a female orientation in horror. Camille Paglia says it's actually a female kind of paradigm horror, because the men are screaming and helpless or whatever. I don't know about that. I do agree with her about it being a pagan reflex. However, this is for a much different reason. Okay, the final girl thing was that nobody cares what happens to a man. Okay, in a horror film, but here these women are the main protagonists for a different reason. Okay. This is cool. They got YouTube horror. Oh, when I make a horror film, imagine they got on here and they reviewed it and they had no idea about the other vids I did. Something here about Florida. Interesting. It was just like I say, I'm still here for another day. Florida is a creepy state. It is creepy. A lot of it is this impenetrable forests, believe it or not, and it gets cold down here. It gets foggy, and you have a lot of things that will take a bite out of you if you're stupid. But well, I might check that out. But as you can see, it continues. Okay. I'm sure this guy is eat bad. So, alligator. Oh yeah. Well, like I said, I'm trying to stay in the theme, but Alligator was awesome. You want to see a good movie? And I didn't realize that Alligator was more popular when it was premiered on ABC. I remember watching it on that Friday night. That was awesome. We were all talking about it the next day. Flushing the alligator down the toilet. Look what you got. Right? Yeah, so skipping a lot of this stuff. We have here. This is what I'm covering. The female. Night of the Living Dead Chola. I mean, we see as a Mexican American, this writer, all the horror I saw and felt growing up. Okay, which is all the fault of this place, of course. Given that admission, we should consider, and the reviewer says, we should consider ourselves both fortunate and blessed that she's chosen to dare to share that experience with us. Oh, get down on your knees and bow. Right? Jesus. And there's not much left here. I'm just going to end this with this. Okay, Anne Rice. She passed away in December. I didn't even realize it until like January. What do I think? Okay. Her early stuff was some of the most bleakest, romantic, in terms of the early, romantics and decadent. A good combination. She obviously read everyone from Byron and Shelley to Balzac and Huysmans, Wilde. The only writer, like I said, close to her is Clark Ashton Smith. But whereas Clark Ashton Smith toiled, for weird tales, she became a huge. Only Stephen King maybe sold more than her. She was huge mainstream success for some of the most bleakest, darkest, goriest novels that you probably ever existed and I would say transgressive, which, well, that's the whole point, right? The legacy she leaves. Okay, she made the gender thing. It was a huge part of it. Essentially, I realized now that all her male characters are her. They're women. Okay, the Japanese women did this. There's a whole genre of manga from the same time period that started in the 70s of that. But in terms of the legacy she left, okay, the writer here, the reviewer is like, oh, she returned to Catholicism and I stopped reading the stuff. Well, she went away from that too. She became an atheist again, which is really interesting to see that. Well, I mean, Huysmans and Wilde and many of them became Catholics in their last days. She went away from that. I sometimes wonder, one of her early novels, Cry to Heaven, brilliant novel. You may not like it because there's a lot of scenes in it that are kind of like, okay, what are you doing, lady? But that was a bestseller. But the idea of the brutality, the barbarism of Christians castrating children, to have them sing like angels. Well, how would she feel about what they're doing today? And you know what I'm saying. I'm not saying it for the Al Gore rhythm, Igor rhythm, but did she ever have anything to say about that? I guess I could look into it, since I remember looking at her Twitter. All she could do is jump on the orange person who I forgot about by now. But when all is said and done, in terms of the gender thing, she represents that. Her first book came out in the 70s, which you could say is the first decadent era where it was apparent. I'm telling you, this stuff was going down in the 1880s and 90s, but it was a good marker to see that. And it doesn't change that the early work was, it appealed to me in many ways as a young man. The cry to heaven, okay, the God that just wants you to suffer, and the cry to heaven that God doesn't answer to. Now, of course, I feel different in many ways about that. I don't think in the end what she contributed to was a good thing in retrospect. And now we're going to all be castrati in a couple of decades, the way things are going. But it doesn't make a difference. Those early novels, and The Feast of All Saints, very underrated novel about New Orleans, about the Creoles, New Orleans, who fled Haiti. A very underrated book as well on many levels. I gotta reread that. But anyway, The boomer narrative, the boomer time is ending. And she was definitely immersed in that, although she was a silent generation person. But that's all I have to say about that. Very talented woman, regardless. Uh, Rest in peace. Yeah, why not? Oh, look at this. Later.